Good evening, boils and ghouls. It's spooky season, and you know what that means? Time to cover a spooky show. But oh boy, do I have a treat for all of you, as today, my boils and ghouls, we're looking at Tales from the Crypt. For those who don't know, Tales is an anthology comedy horror show that aired from 1989 to 1995, across 7 seasons along with a trilogy of films and an animated TV show, 2 anthology movies in the 70s, and even a radio show in the 2000s. And despite it being cancelled over 30 years ago, it still has a dedicated fanbase to this day, and I'm now counting myself among them. With this being Spooky Month and my last year's Halloween episode covering VHS, it honestly felt fitting to look at one of the few pieces of horror media that kept the genre alive during a, let's just say, trying time. It's also known, of course, as the early 1990s. Sadly, due to licensing and copyright issues, Tales is not currently available on any streaming services. However, if you do want to watch it, there is a complete box set online, which honestly isn't too expensive. The Internet Archive also has quite a few episodes, and if you're really desperate, YouTube has some, but they're about 240p. For today's video though, I'm only just going to be covering the main show and the 5 films, not the kids' TV show or radio show. If there's enough interest in that, maybe I'll cover them one day, but until then, let's stick with this, because as you can see from the length of this video, it's already well long enough. Quick disclaimer, of course, all my opinions stated in this video are my own opinions. If you disagree with me, that is completely fine, but if we all thought the same, it'd be a very boring world, wouldn't it? Now, without further ado, let's take a little look back at Tales from the Crypt. First up, we have Tales from the Crypt, 1972, an anthology film made in Britain, and as a British person, I've got to kind of like this film. I'll get into more details as I go through each individual segment, but it essentially revolves around 5 people going into a kind of creepy little cave where a very strange robed man known as the Crypt Keeper tells everyone how they're gonna die, which, not the funniest way to spend your Friday afternoon, I've got to tell you. The film is known mostly for how dark it can be at times, whilst the main show that would come in the 1980s to 1990s is a lot more lighthearted and comedic. This first attempt to adapt the EC comic books is not very cheery. In fact, at times it's downright mean, and I really like that. So let's get straight into the first segment. And all through the house is the first stop on our very long train journey, and it's a really good start. It follows a woman who murders her husband on Christmas Day, and at the same time an escaped lunatic tries to kill her. It's a really fun cat and mouse game, very cheesy despite it trying to be very serious. But I think it works. I'm not sure why it does, in 100% honesty. I think it's partly down to the performances. Everyone in this segment really gives it their all. It's so damn fun to watch. I love all the little cheesy aspects, such as they're trying to figure out what to do with the body, the cops being involved, maybe, not too sure. It's just a solid start. I will state I do think there is a better adaptation when it comes to the TV show version, but it's still awesome. I really enjoy this one. It's a great start, so 8 out of 10. Reflection of Death is our second story, and it's okay. This one follows a man who's having an affair, and yeah, he just crashes his car. It's not overly interesting, in all honesty, until he wakes up and realises that he's been thrown completely clear of the car but seems completely fine. However, as the day goes on, everyone else starts reacting in absolute terror to seeing his face. We're not too sure what's happening until the end, where it's a time loop because he was a zombie the whole time. Maybe? Question mark? I'm not too sure, in all honesty, and the story doesn't really have the time to explain it to you. This is the shortest of the 5 segments in the film, and my lord, does it feel like the shortest. It's not bad by any means, but I think just another couple of minutes runtime could have fixed some issues I have with it, so 5 out of 10, it's mixed. Our third story is Poetic Justice, and this is the first of many, many stories throughout Tales of the Crypt, where we follow essentially the bad guys of the story, and eventually see them get a really, really satisfying comeuppance. This one does not disappoint in that aspect. It follows these kind of rich, snobby ass people who just torture this poor man who lives across the street. He's not even bothering them, he's just a little bit dirty because of the kind of job he does. And these little snobs try to ruin his life. They steal his dogs, they basically try and kill him. And by the end of it, my lord, the final scene is some of the most satisfying few minutes I've ever had watching a film. I will say at times it can be a bit too mean-spirited, and this is what I was mentioning at the start of talking about this film. But even so, it's still really fun, so I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Our fourth segment, Wish You Were Here, is the first of quite a few Monkey's Paw stories, if I'm being honest, and if I'm being extremely honest, I am completely fine with this. I am a giant sucker when it comes to Monkey's Paw stories. I don't know why, because they're all exactly the same. If you've never heard a Monkey's Paw story, number one, go watch The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, they do it perfectly. But it follows any kind of people who get given a monkey's paw, and it grants you 3 wishes, similar to a genie. But there's always a twist to it, and this one does it so well. The ending of this one is so messed up, but in the perfect way. It's not even very violent or gory, it's all the implied aspects that I really, really love. Every wish is brought together perfectly, and yeah, I just really enjoy these, even if they are bog standard, so it's a 9 out of 10. I'm biased. Our fifth and final segment is Blind Alleys. Now, this story is when the dark and meanness, I think, kind of takes it a bit too far. So, in this story, we follow a home for the blind, and just see this horrible man just abuse the blind people for about 20 minutes. This segment is the longest one, and after a while, it can start to drag. Now, I will end this by saying I do actually like this segment. I am going to give it a 7 out of 10, and it is literally only for the final 5 minutes. If you haven't seen this version or the version that they readapted for the TV show, skip most of it until the final 5 minutes, if I'm being honest, because those final 5 minutes are the most satisfying thing maybe ever. It definitely beats the third segments, and that's saying a lot. So, yeah, 7 out of 10. It's kind of forgettable, but brilliant ending. And that, boils and ghouls, is Tales from the Crypt 1972. And it's a very fun ride. There's only one segment that I'm not the biggest fan of with the second one. I really like what they tried to do, I just don't think they achieved it very well with the final twist. Even so, what a film. Really, really fun. This film has like 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way, to which I'm not surprised, in all honesty. It's solid. It's a good bit of 1970s British horror. Something that, let's just say the next time that Tales from the Crypt goes into British aspects with its 7th season, it does not replicate very well, but this is such a solid start for the franchise. Weirdly enough though, like with every other Tales from the Crypt project, it doesn't just adapt the Tales from the Crypt DC comic. There's also ones like The Vault of Horror, which, you know, sure, why not? Then there's also The Haunt of Fear, and another one, Suspense Tales. I don't really get why most of them only use the Tales from the Crypt moniker, but they really wanted to, so, you know, you do you, boo. I don't mind. You do you, darling. Whatever you need, sweetheart. Now, like I said, it's just really fun, and it did do very well financially, grossing over $3 million on like a £200,000 budget. It's kind of notes how much turnover that got. So 1 year later, we got a sequel. A sequel which is almost as good as this one, except for one glaring mistake. The Vault of Horror 1973 is the second installment of the Tales from the Crypt series, and like I said, there's one glaring issue with that. It's not called Tales from the Crypt. So if you really like the first movie, the next year you did get a sequel, but unless you kept up with the news back then, which, 1973, Google wasn't really a thing yet, my boys, you wouldn't know this was a sequel. And in all honesty, at times, it doesn't feel like one despite being produced as one. There's definitely a lot of similarities, a group of 5 people discussing how they died, but this time in their dreams. Also got 5 segments, also based off the EC Comics series, but they just didn't call it Tales from the Crypt 2. And you'll see by the end of this video why that was a massive, massive mistake, so let's get straight into it. First up for the Vault of Horror is Midnight Mass, and it follows a really fun story where a guy hires a private detective to go find his long-lost sister, and after finding his long-lost sister, he then murders both the detective and his sister to claim inheritance. It's a very, very fun start. Is it cheesy? Hell yes. But as you'll see later on in this video, if you don't like cheesy things, the Tales from the Crypt franchise, it's just not for you, hun. Because this gets really silly by the end. There's a great twist which, once again, completely off the rails in the best kind of way. It's a bit cheap, I will say, when it comes to the special effects. I'd actually say this is the worst that any Tales from the Crypt project looks, and because of that, I can only give it a 7 out of 10, but it's still very fun. I would recommend it, and like I said, solid start for a new movie. Our second story is The Neat Job, and this one's also very fun, but very cheesy. This one is actually from Shock Suspense Stories, whilst the previous one and all the rest are from Tales from the Crypt. Almost like this was meant to be Tales from the Crypt 2 or something, but none of the stories are literally from the Vault of Horror, which, blows my mind. But away from that little tidbit, this story is just fun. There's not much to it, it's quite simple. A man who's a massive neat freak marries a woman who is not a massive neat freak, and he keeps insulting her throughout the story until she caves his head in. It's fun, it's cheesy, not much else to say, so 7 out of 10. Our third story is This Trick'll Kill Ya, and this is just so damn fun. I'm shocked this one wasn't adapted into the TV show. So, in this story, we follow a magician and his wife who are going to India on a working holiday, and they basically just start seeing stuff like snake charming and go absolutely mentally obsessed. The story is so damn fun. I really don't want to spoil anything else, because this is one of the few stories I watched with my fiancé, and he doesn't like horror movies. Even he enjoyed this segment. That's all you really need to know. It's cheesy in all the right ways. It's really good. The special effects are shockingly good for 1973, and for this movie in particular, so check it out, it's great. Solid 8 out of 10, no more notes. Our fourth story is Bargain in Death, and sadly this is the first dud of the franchise in my opinion. Its story is very confusing. There's so much betrayal every 5 seconds. I think, and that's an emphasis on the word think, it's some kind of insurance scam where someone's trying to be dead, like faking it, but they keep double-crossing each other. So, honestly, I lost track of who was betraying who, and the whole thing is pretty much a mess. I'll state when it comes to the segment, cinematically, it's the best looking one. It looks beautiful, the nighttime shots are absolutely gorgeous, and the joke at the end is kind of funny, but apart from that, it's just a mess. 3 out of 10, it's not good. Last but certainly not least is Drawn and Quartered, which follows the Fourth Doctor, who's doing painting stuff in Hawaii. And no, I refuse to call this character Mom. He's played by Tom Baker, so he's just the Fourth Doctor from Doctor Who. And it's really good commentary, something I didn't expect to say this early on from Tales from the Crypt, but it's essentially about how an artist's life, they draw these beautiful things, they get sold for millions upon millions, and the artist gets about 20p. It's really good with that kind of commentary, and it's so much fun by the end. He basically realises, after doing some kind of voodoo curse on himself, that he can draw stuff that now comes true, and he takes really fun revenge on everyone who screwed him over. The ending as well has some nice little bit of poetic irony, and yeah, it's just solid. It's the best one I've watched so far. 9 out of 10. No more no's. And that is sadly all she wrote for this little duology of films. The Vault of Horror did not do very well at the box office, despite me honestly really enjoying it. There's only one segment that stands out to me as not being very good, whilst the rest are between good and my favourite so far for this video. The problem is this film was not marketed very well. At this point in time, I can't even confirm what it was made for. There's no evidence of the budget online, and there's also no records of the box office. And let me tell you, when a studio doesn't want to release their box office numbers, there's usually a pretty good reason. And the fact we never got a third one of these, which sounds like it was originally the plan, tells you all you need to know. This film bombed. It should have been called Tales from the Crypt too. I know I've been harking a lot on about that throughout this film, but it should have been. It just should have been called Tales from the Crypt too. It would have generated more money, more buzz. Maybe some people would have been a bit more skeptical of it being a sequel, because, 1970s is very different landscape to nowadays. But I really like it. It's still fun. Is it as good as the first one? No. No. It is not as good as the first one. But is it solid? Hell yes. And is it a lot better than some of the seasons that are to come? Yes, also yes to that one. But that's it, sadly, for the 1970s. After this, EC Comics didn't really get any more adaptations up until 1989, where we have the first season of Tales from the Crypt. In 1989, Warner Brothers had a brand new network called HBO. I don't know, you might have heard of it. And one thing they needed desperately is brand new shows that could help push the limit of what television in America had seen by this point. And one of the best choices was to revive Tales from the Crypt, this time as a TV show based on the EC Comics series, along with all the sister ones I've already mentioned, and to say it was a hit is honestly an understatement. It was only 6 episodes, and season 2 got 18. That's all you need to know about how successful the show was straight off the bat. And like I said, there's a reason people still remember this show to this day. It's because this season especially comes out of the gate absolutely swinging. So I don't want to waffle, let's get straight into season 1 of Tales from the Crypt. Our first story, Boils and Ghouls, is the man who was death, following a prison executor who gets sacked because, a lot of people don't really want executions anymore, and because of this, he basically makes himself judge, jury, and executioner. It's a fun little story. It's not honestly that special. I wouldn't personally have picked it for episode 1, but it does exactly what the show needed to do with its first episode. Introduces the incredible character of the Crypt Keeper, who, yes, is the reason why every single one of these little titles that I give to all the episodes has a terrible, terrible pun. And yeah, it's just solid. There's honestly not much more to say. It's good. It's a solid 7 out of 10. Great start. For our second story, we have our first retelling with An All Through the House. Now, as I said when I covered this for the film version, It's great, and this version of it is even better. I love this story so much. After the first one was a good start, but nothing overly special, and All Through the House shows exactly what Tales of the Crypt can be. It's very gory and violent for a show from 1989. Honestly, it took me by surprise when I first watched this show, because I wasn't expecting that level of gore, but it works perfectly. It's really funny as well. There's comedy in the first episode, but this one dials it up to 11 and it works perfectly. It's so cheesy in the right way. It knows exactly what it wants to be, and it's very proud of that. I honestly can't recommend this episode enough, and if you want to watch the show, I'd say start with this one, because for me, it's a 10 out of 10. It's perfect. Episode 3 is honestly just so weird, but I kinda love it. Dig That Cat, He's Really Gone follows a character who literally can't die. They have 9 lives due to some weird science experiment, which is never fully explained, but you know what? Sure, they put the soul of a cat into a guy. I'm fine with that. And due to this, he goes into a freak show and keeps doing something I can't say on YouTube without immediately being thrown out of the algorithm, but let's just say that sewer slide is a term I'm going to have to use for the rest of this video. It's fun, it's really dumb once again, just like the previous episode, but very fun. My only real issue is the ending feels very bleak and kind of out of nowhere, since this character wasn't that bad or malicious, so I think it's a bit mean at the end, but I still love it. It's fun. It's a solid 7 out of 10. Very entertaining. Episode 4, Only Sin Deep, is another really fun episode, and it stars Leah Thomas, so what is not to love? It follows this young woman who does certain activities for money, let's just say, and she basically makes a deal with a voodoo priest man as a pawnbroker. It's really funny with that aspect. She ends up being able to snag like a super rich dude, and then everything starts falling apart because of a deal she made. It's so fun. I know I've been saying that a lot for this season, but I think it does just sum up season 1 of Tales from the Crypt. It's fun, it's dumb, and that's exactly what I like from my television. There's not much more to say. It's great. It's my second favourite so far, so 8 out of 10. Episode 5 is Lover Come Hack to Me, the first of many episodes in this show that have a really funny pun for a title that are also just terrible puns that I for some reason really enjoy. This episode follows a newlywed couple where the husband is very obviously not interested in his new wife. He's just with her for the money. And they end up spending a night at this creepy, haunted-looking mansion with a very fun twist at the end. Honestly, my only real problem with this episode is that the first half of it drags on. Like, just watching this guy be mean to this less than normal attractive lady for like 15 minutes, not the funnest thing. But the second half is a lot better. If I generally gave rankings to just the first and second half, the first half would be like a 2, the second half would be an 8, so I'd say a 5 out of 10. It's also by far the goriest and most sexual so far, so let's get on with the rest. Our last tale for this season is Collection Completed, starring M. Emmett Walsh as a guy who does not want to retire, but has just gone into retirement. His wife really loves animals, and, you know, completely get you there, sister, and ends up adopting a ton of them into the house, which Emmett Walsh is not a fan of, I'll be honest with you. He ends up doing some horrible things when it comes to, let's just say, taxidermy and the animals. I know, big spoiler there. But the ending of this one really is fun. I'd say that the episode overall isn't perfect. I've seen a lot of people state that this is their favourite Tales episode, and I can completely see why. There's a lot to love about it, but for me, the animal cruelty part just goes on a little bit too long to see this arsehole get his comeuppance. It's still really fun though, and a great way to end the very fun season, so 7 out of 10. Definitely a good one. And that, my lumpies and gems, is the end of Season 1 of Tales from the Crypt, and it's honestly quite a solid start. Is it as good as the first movie? I'd say it's pretty much on par, to be honest. There's one additional story, and obviously the runtime's a lot more than 10 to 20 minutes per segment, to a full-on 20 to 25 minutes per segment, and it really does help. I also just need to mention, because I can't really mention it in the segments, the Crypt Keeper is my spirit animal. Every single 5 seconds, this guy just throws out one of the worst one-liners you've ever heard in your life, but I can't help but love it. The voice actor for him, John Cassar, is perfect in this role, and there's a reason why he reprised the role till the end of the show, and even the 3 movies after the show. Like, he's just that good, and he's that fun as the character. Each story this season gave us something completely different. You really never knew what was going to happen by the end of it. Nothing felt like it was copy-pasted from a previous idea, and it just helped every single episode stand out more. Now, like I said when I was going through them, there's one episode that I'm not the biggest fan of, but I still really respect it. The amount of violence in that episode for a show from 1989, we need to remember, is really nuts. That scene, especially towards the end, took me completely by surprise. I'm not going to fully spoil it for you, but yeah, I was not expecting that level of adult themes in a TV show from the 80s. Even now, I think we're still a bit prudish when it comes to TV shows. Definitely not as much as we used to be because of shows like Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead, but yeah, it's just great. I'd really recommend people checking out this season especially. It's only 6 episodes, it's only 2 hours. Check it out, it's a lot of fun. But with that out of the way, let's get to the triple-sized Season 2. Following on from the smash success of Season 1, Season 2 was very, very quickly put into development. And I mean less than a year later is when we got Episode 1 of Season 2 of Tales. That says a lot in my opinion, especially for a relatively new channel. Yeah, this show was definitely a hit for them. We don't have full viewing figures when it comes to the show due to it being so long ago, sadly, but from what I can tell online, it did much better than expected. Season 2 even ended up with triple the amount of episodes. Season 1 had 6 episodes, while Season 2 has 18. Now, let's go straight into them, because triple the episodes, does that mean that the quality can actually stay up? As we all saw from The Walking Dead, quantity doesn't always mean quality. Dead Right is another good but not amazing episode to start off a season. I feel like this is going to be a trend throughout the rest of the show. It follows a woman who marries this... Let's just say, if you've ever seen the Mr. Creosote skit from the old Monty Pythons, you know what this guy looks like. And yeah, she don't like it. The literal only reason she's with him is a fortune teller told her that shortly before he dies, he'll inherit a massive amount of money. So she's basically waiting for him to die. The episode follows these two pretty horrible characters just being horrible to each other, but usually I dislike this. With these two, because you have Jeffrey goddamn Tambor and the incredible Demi Moore, I can't look away. They're both just such brilliant actors that they really elevate both these horrible, horrible characters. The ending's really fun as well, but like I said, sometimes it can just be a bit mean. So, 7 out of 10, it's solid. Our second tale from this season, The Switch, has another mental cast. We have Ian Abercrombie and William Hickey, with the episode being directed by Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's insane to me. Could you imagine a horror show having that level of A-list nowadays? I don't think I ever could, in all honesty. And The Switch is a very fun place to put these incredible performers. And even Arnie actually goes quite well at directing. The episode follows a very elderly man called Carlton who just wants to propose to his, well, if I'm being honest, his gold digger. But she keeps saying no due to how old he is, so he keeps getting surgery to make himself look younger and younger with some fun little sci-fi body switching stuff. It's a great episode that's really brought down, in my opinion, by the final couple of minutes. it's still really good though, so 7 out of 10. I'd check it out. Episode 3, Cutting Cards, is another ridiculously fun episode, and even has Lance Henriksen, and I love me some Alien, so no problem from me. And it's just so dumb. It follows two gamblers who despise each other. Like, these people would shoot each other in the face if they were legally allowed to, and it actually becomes a plot point later on in the episode. They just keep one-upping each other with these ridiculous bets, including cutting off their own fingers, Russian roulette. It's so extreme and brought to such comedic perfection by Lance Henriksen especially. I just really enjoy this episode. It's dumb, it's one of the shorter ones at only about 20 minutes, but it's got some great blood, it's got some great gore, and the comedy is awesome, so I have to give it a 9 out of 10. It's pretty amazing. Episode 4 is Till Death, and this one follows one of those rich snobby asses that I can't stand, and his obsession with another rich snobby ass. She just don't want him, bro. She just keeps rejecting him at every single angle. So he ends up getting a love potion because why not? I've got 7 about lying around my flat. And it ends up going very wrong. I know, shocker. This episode does something that I don't normally like when it comes to stuff like love potions and manipulating people, but it ends up working really well in my opinion. The fact it doesn't take itself at all seriously, the fact that we're obviously not meant to like either of these characters, works really well. It's so silly, the ending is so fun in a stupid way. I just enjoy watching this one. It's another really solid episode, so 8 out of 10. It's great. Our fifth tale is Freeze a Crowd. Now, I know throughout this video I've been praising the amount of comedy throughout all the stories. This is the first one I'd say doesn't try to do that. Freeze a Crowd is a much more serious, dark episode, following a married couple who are going through a few financial issues and end up getting invited to a cabin by their very, very rich best friend. And yeah, the husband who's going through issues starts to think that she's having an affair. It's very tense throughout this whole thing. You see him lose his mind throughout. It's basically like a 25-minute thriller film and works perfectly. The ending as well, I just need to mention, it stuck with me since I watched this episode. I'm giving this episode a 10 out of 10, and I'm not even joking, the extra 2 points are just for the ending. It is so shocking and gut-wrenching in a way I didn't think Tales could ever be, that I can't not give it a 10. It's awesome. Episode 6 for Thing from the Grave is a very, very good story that sadly came only 2 episodes after I've basically seen this story. The Thing from the Grave feels very similar from Till Death. There are so many similarities, especially when it comes to the endings, that it's hard not to think about them as very similar. Now, this one does star Terry Hatcher, who I do think is an incredible actress that does not get enough recognition as one of the best Bond girls. But apart from that, it's too similar at times. I'll state it's very enjoyable, and I have tried to look at it as its own separate thing, not taking Till Death into account. And as that, it's good. It's a solid 7 out of 10, so that's what I feel comfortable giving it. But I feel like the network probably should have pushed this episode a couple of weeks later, because it's just too similar to an episode from 2 weeks ago. Still, like I said, 7 is deserved. Episode 7, The Sacrifice, is the first dud of Season 2. Not because it's bad, just because it's honestly not that memorable. And we've had similar plots to this before, as I mentioned in the previous episode. The Sacrifice follows this guy who kills an absolute douchebag in order to steal his money and his wife, but soon finds out that, yeah, his boss knows. It's a really good concept, and Michael Ironsides is incredible in this episode as the boss. There's a really fun thing to do with all the balcony scenes, really awesome cinematography for that, and the overall plot twist is really fun. But with this already being the third episode this season, and basically in a row to do with cheating spouses, the trope is getting a bit tiring now, and it does drag it down. I'd also say there's nothing overly special. Like I said, I tried to look at these separate from all the others, but it's getting difficult by this point, so 5 out of 10. It's kind of mixed. Episode 8, for crying out loud, finally goes away from an idea of a cheating spouse, and it does so very well. It follows this kind of rock band promoter who works at a, let's be honest, kind of crappy venue that runs off with a ton of donation money because he wants to be rich. And I'm not joking when I say this, Leela from Futurama ends up blackmailing him for half of the money. It's very, very fun. It feels a lot more like Tales from the Crypt Season 1 than it does Season 2, and I'm okay with this. It's just dumb. There's a very fun little running theme that his inner thoughts are starting to manifest, possibly as like a split personality thing, or is it all in his head? It's dumb, it's awesome, it's an 8 out of 10. Nice and simple. Episode 9, Four-Sided Triangle, and oh no, it's another one where people think someone's having an affair. Yeah, this one's not great either. Patricia Arquette is brilliant, as literally she always is in everything, and yes, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is my second favourite of the Nightmare films for a reason. She's just really good in everything she's put in. It's just a shame that for this episode she is the only highlight. A lot of this feels very similar in a way to the recent movie Pearl, but whilst Pearl focuses on much more of character-focused aspects, this one just seems to have really weird scenes without much context. She really, really wants to do the Scarecrow, just like Pearl does, but instead of it being to show that she's going absolutely nuts, it's because, reasons, question mark? The married couple on the farm are also really bizarre. I don't really get what their point is, so 5 out of 10, and that's just for Patricia. Episode 10, The Ventriloquist Dummy, follows a very, very, very retired ventriloquist after a horrible incident at his final show. And he's played by Don Rickles, so, you know, hearing Mr. Potato Head from Toy Story say some of the lines he does in this, it's only 50% destroyed my childhood. It's fine. Whilst the rest of it follows a brand new ventriloquist who is honestly atrocious, and he wants to learn from the former master in order to get better at his craft. There's some really good character moments throughout this. I wasn't expecting to care as much as I ended up doing about the relationship between the master and apprentice, kind of father-son relationship they end up developing. It's just a really solid episode. The twist is awesome. It feels right out of the X-Files. I won't be surprised if the X-Files actually copied this episode for its own freak show episode. So, yeah, 8 out of 10. It's great. For our 11th story, Judy, You're Not Yourself Today, we have a body swap episode. I'm honestly shocked it took till the 17th episode of the entire show to get to a body swap, but I'm happy it's finally here. It follows a witch who swaps bodies with this innocent woman who just kind of lives her life. She's played by the absolute incredibleness that is Frances Bate, may she forever rest in peace, and the little dynamic between this crazy old lady witch and this regular average lady, along with her husband, is so fun. I love all the scenes of the husband getting confused as to which one's his wife and which one's this evil witch. There's some really fun moments as well, and they finally kind of leave a lot of sets behind and go to actual public places for filming, which is really cool. It's just a solidly fun episode, so it's another 8 out of 10. I'm giving a lot of 8s to this season. Our 12th episode, Fitting Punishment, is another one of the more darker episodes of Tales from the Crypt. There's still comedy in this one compared to the Three's Company one, but it's still very dark in tone. It follows a guy who works at this morgue and keeps, selling stuff at his funeral home, such as caskets, etc. And he ends up having to take in his long-lost nephew. And he's not a fan. This man is very arrogant, very self-centered, and treats even his employees like absolute dishwater. So when his nephew has to now come live with him and he has to pay for him, stuff does not go very well. It's really tragic as this episode in the best kind of way. I love the relationship between the uncle and nephew and how horribly toxic it is. It's both awful but intriguing to watch, and the ending is one of the most satisfying things the show's done so far, so it's another 10 out of 10. I can't fault this one. For episode 13, we have Carmen's Calamity, a cartoonist who works at... Hang on, one moment. No, that's right. He works at Tales From The Crypt. Wow, that's the most meta thing the show's done so far, and hopefully it doesn't go any further. But I'm joking, this episode is really fun. He has this horrible, horrible wife, and every single time that she's seen, she's just berating him, and by this point in the show, you know exactly what you're waiting for, the moment he gets his comeuppance on her, and it's done so fun. Throughout the show, and this episode especially, it focuses a lot on the supernatural, with this one being that his monsters he draws end up becoming real and are causing havoc around the city. He meets this very pretty lady cop who he starts to fall for, and she kinda likes him too. It's just fun. It's dumb. It's a nice little icebreaker from the previous, much darker episode, so solid 8 out of 10, it's great. Our 14th episode is Lower Birth, and honestly, this is the worst episode of the entire show so far. It follows a freak show where this two-faced freak, or as Dead Meat James would put it, unique individual, and he falls in love with a 4,000-year-old mummy. It's not great, I'll be honest. This episode is quite slow and quite boring, but by the end of it, you kind of start loving this two-faced guy. He's very sweet, I love all the scenes with him, I just kind of want to protect him like a long-lost puppy. And the ending twist, when I first watched this episode, my mouth was literally agape. It is such a fun twist. I am not going to spoil it, please go watch the episode for it, because, yeah, it's awesome. It's the best twist of the entire show, and I'm stating that in full retrospect of what the rest of the show is like. So I have to give it a 6, based completely on the ending, because, wow. Episode 15, we have New Witness to Murder. Now, I'm not even going to pretend to be happy for this one. I'm angry just having to tell you all about it. This is the episode that made my fiancé tap out of watching this show, and he only watched the occasional one afterwards. It's that bad. It follows a woman and her husband, and the woman sees her neighbour murder someone, probably his wife, I don't know, I didn't care enough to really remember if I'm being honest, and she goes mute because of it. Now, as a concept, that's actually really good. I like that as an aspect. But then for the rest of the episode, she just doesn't communicate what happened. She can move her hands, we directly see it in the episode, but she doesn't write down what happened. And the neighbour ends up being the psychologist, and he just turns into an absolute psychopath who, tortures her. Not, even though there's security cameras in that room, none of the other workers at this asylum notice it. It's just so bad. It's awful. It's a 2 out of 10. It's genuinely atrocious. Thank Lord for episode 16, because if this episode wasn't good, I wouldn't have made this video. I would have also tapped out like my fiancé did. But thankfully, Television Terror is possibly my favourite episode of the entire show. I've still not decided what my number 1 would be. It's a good thing I don't rank in these videos anymore, because otherwise, it'd be tricky. Television Terror follows a pretty much disgraced news host who's doing a kind of crappy haunted house thing for Halloween, similar to, if any of you are British, Ghostwatch from the BBC, but this time it's actually for real. And the best thing about this episode is that because the character is so horrific and played by the equally, in my opinion, absolutely horrific Martin Downey Jr., It really helps when you see him get horrifically attacked by these ghosts. It is such a fun episode. Every aspect of it is a 10 out of 10, so that's what the episode gets to. For our second to last episode of this season, we have My Brother's Keeper. This one involves Siamese twins Frank and Eddie, and oh god, this episode is also just really fun. Is it a bit cringe at times? Hell yes it is. But it basically follows the brothers and their struggles by being Siamese, and specifically joined at the butt. Which, yeah, that's just funny by itself. Bums are always funny, and I don't care what anyone says. It's just really fun. There's some really good moments. Jessica Harper is in this, and that will automatically make me enjoy it more, because Black Christmas is in my top 5 films of all time. So, yeah, her being in this, in her gorgeous looking 40s, I will never complain about. It's just a fun episode. There's nothing honestly too special about it, apart from the really fun twist ending, but I just love it. It's an 8 out of 10 once again. Solid season so far. For episode 18 is last but certainly not least, The Secret. This episode is dumb. It's very, very dumb. There's some really bad lighting when it comes to being outside. Everything is way too blue, but it's actually difficult to see. But it's so fun. I just really enjoy this episode. There's nothing overly special about it either. It's just a normal kind of kid gets adopted by this weird family who end up being evil. The kind of stuff you'd expect to see all the time. It almost feels kind of Addams Family, in all honesty. But the ending is so off the wall insane. I can't help but love it. It's just fun. This episode is probably one of the most well-known Tales from the Crypt episodes, both for good and bad reasons. And I can see why, so 7 out of 10, it's just solid fun. And that was season 2 of Tales from the Crypt. A really, really solid season, if I'm being honest. I actually prefer watching this one to season 1, despite the very glaring outlier being the mute one. But apart from that, this is just more of Tales from the Crypt 1. There are some differences when it comes to season 2, and I think some aspects of that do involve it being made and released in the 90s compared to the 80s. There's a lot more focus on relationship aspects throughout this season, some which I think works ridiculously well, once again, possibly my favourite episode of all time with the 5th one, and some that don't work out as well. But even with that said, apart from those 2 little outliers, everything about this feels fresh. It doesn't feel like a show that's starting to run out of steam already, and with triple the episode count of the first season, that's really impressive to me. The fact that I actually think this is better in quality than season 1 overall speaks a lot of volume to how good this season is. If people were to watch season 1 and think, oh, I do quite like this, but I'm not sure if I'll keep watching, do. Definitely do. Season 2 is just better than the first in nearly every aspect. Like I said, there's just one outlying episode which I really dislike. Other than that, the lowest I'd give any episode is a 5, and that says a lot in my opinion. With season 3, I will state, it's very similar to season 2. Honestly, seasons 2 and 3 go hand in hand for me, and you'll see why whilst I'm talking about it, so let's not waste any time. On to season 3. Now this one is very similar to season 2 if I'm being honest when it comes to the quality. There's definitely some lows, but the lows are fine. I'm gonna be honest before we even get into the episodes. I can cope with the lows because the highs this season are just as high as the previous one. And the reduction of episodes down to 14 instead of 18, honestly in my opinion really helps the quality. It's just so much fun. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's just get straight into it. Episode 1 of this season is Loved to Death, and honestly, it's not good. How I praised the previous season for focusing on stuff like controlling someone through a love wish, all of the good aspects of that just aren't in this episode. Basically, this loser kind of screenwriter-y dude, he has a crush on her neighbour and just gives her a love potion. And then she gets punished throughout most of the episode for it. Now, I will state, she's quite a rude person. She's not exactly the nicest character in the world. But I don't think that really justifies the amount of stuff she goes through in this episode. Even by the end of it, when they end up in essentially hell, she's also getting punished and is still under the spell. It's just very mean. A lot of part of this episode is just mean-spirited, and I just don't enjoy it. So, 3 out of 10 is kind of bad. Thankfully, episode 2 is a massive step up compared to episode 1, and it has Kyle MacLachlan in it, so automatically I'm gonna like it, because I'm a big fan of all the stuff he does, especially Fallout. Please do go watch the Fallout TV show, because I want 700 seasons of it by the time I'm 100. Carrion Death is just a really fun but relatively basic story. Essentially, we have an escaped convict who's being chased down by a state trooper. They get into some shenanigans together. There's some really good back and forths throughout the whole episode, and eventually the prisoner ends up killing the trooper after they've been handcuffed together, with no way to cut off the trooper's hand. And he basically just has to drag it across the desert to try and get to the Mexican border, whilst he has a corpse on him, and a bunch of, falcons and vultures are just watching over him, waiting for him to die. It's just a really fun, basic story, so solid 8 out of 10, it's great. Episode 3, The Trap. Now, this episode is honestly so damn weird in the best possible way. We follow this absolute deadbeat who can't hold down a job and is just awful to everyone around him, including his own wife and his brother. And to basically get a ton of money, he fakes his own death with the help of his wife and brother, just to basically frame it for murder and to get a ton of money. But because he's such a horrible person, his wife and brother have other plans by the end of the episode. It's really fun. I don't want to spoil too much, because I definitely recommend people check this one out. It's only about 20 to 25 minutes as well. It's one of the shorter ones from Tales, so you have no excuse not to. Go check it out. It's a 9 out of 10. Story number 4, Abracadabra, and this one is also really, really fun, but with such a dark ending. With the amount of comedy in this episode for the first few minutes, the rest of it gets ridiculously dark. It follows these pair of brothers who are both very, very good doctors, and when they were younger, one of them played a prank on the other one and caused him to have a stroke and a heart attack, which, not exactly the best when you're a doctor, and he ends up partially disabled, sadly. Then, by the time that the story fully takes place, his brother basically gets his comeuppance on him by paralysing him as part of a medical research job. It's a really cool concept, looking at death if you were still conscious. It's dark as all hell, do not get me wrong, but it's also in a weird way kind of philosophical, something I wouldn't expect from this show, so solid 8 out of 10, it's great. Top Billing is an odd episode once again. I'm saying that a lot for this season, I'll be honest, but I think it does sum up season 3. By this point, they really understand what the show is. It's a mix of dark themes with some really comedic aspects, and that's honestly the reason why I love it. And Top Billing really does fit that perfectly. It follows a struggling actor who ends up being accepted, sort of, by this weird stage production, doing a brand new version of Hamlet. But his arch rival is also in the same production, and they're both vying for the same role. He does a really good job at building on these characters. They're both absolute douches, but you can also see why they are the way they are. It's just really fun. Another solid entry from this season, because apparently this season just isn't going to stop. It's another 8 out of 10. Really fun. Dead Weight is our 6th episode of this season, and I still don't fully know how I feel about it. I've watched through this episode multiple times in preparation for this video, but I still don't know how I feel. I know it's good. Like, there are so many good aspects. James Remar is brilliant in this role, and he's brilliant in pretty much every role he's ever had, so that's not really a shock. John Rhys Davies is also in this, and if you're an Indiana Jones fan, yeah, Salah is in this one. So, another good point. Whoopi Goldberg is in this. How the hell they got her during this point in her career? Still no idea. And yeah, incredible actors doing incredible things. But the episode itself just feels very dated to 1991. There's a lot of, let's just say, stereotypes about voodoo and all that stuff. The overall plot is really good. I just wish the voodoo stuff wasn't there, because it doesn't really add much by the final 5 minutes. Still, solid episode, 7 out of 10. Episode 7, The Reluctant Vampire. Now, this episode is not the best loved by a lot of fans, and I do not understand why. We follow Malcolm McDowell's character, who is a vampire that basically has a soul. If you've watched Buffy, you know exactly what you're in for. And he doesn't like to kill people. Thus, the title of the episode. He's not a very good vampire. He even works at a blood bank just so he can steal blood without hurting anyone, until he falls in love with one of the people working there. And because of him constantly stealing all the blood, he needs to fill the blood banks back up. It's just a really ridiculously fun episode. I love all the Van Helsing stuff. It's so fun. Michael Berryman is perfect in that role, and as a really big fan of The Hills Have Eyes, it's good to see him in any role. Yeah, this is just perfect. This is the kind of episode I watch this show for. It's not for everyone, but for me, it's a 10 out of 10, easy. Episode 8, Ease'll Kill You, stars Tim Roth as an artist and recovering alcoholic who may or may not have murderous tendencies, hint, hint. It's a really good character look, and very similar in a way to the Tom Baker one from The Vault of Horror. In fact, they're pretty much the same adaptation, I'm going to be 100% honest, but with different aspects. Whilst the Tom Baker one focused more on supernatural, this one focuses a lot more on the character and the realism. It's very good, and as a character piece, I really enjoy it. I think there's a lot of love to be given to this episode, but the ending is, in my opinion, where it kind of falls apart. So he falls in love with a girl from his own rehabilitation team, and things start going wrong because it's Tales from the Crypt, and no one can be happy. It's still really good. I won't spoil the ending, but it does feel a little bit cliche. I still like it though, so I'd say a 7 out of 10. It's still good. Undertaking Parlour is the first full episode of Tales from the Crypt that focuses on a bunch of child actors. Ironically, it's also the last one as far as I remember, and yes, there is a reason for that. This episode isn't actually as bad as a lot of people say. I've seen it be called the worst episode of season 3, and I massively disagree in all honesty because episode 1 exists, but it's still not perfect. It focuses on a bunch of boys who start investigating the morgue in their town, where they accidentally find out that the mortician and the town doctor are possibly killing people to make more money. It's a cool concept and I really like it, and the camaraderie between the group of boys is actually really good, but there's a lot of child acting in this, and some of the kids are actually really good. Some of them are not, and it stands out. It's still good though. Don't listen to what a lot of people say saying it's the worst of the season, because I still like it, so 7 out of 10. Give it a chance. Episode 10, Morning Mass, is another fun little detective episode, something we haven't had for quite a while by this point with Tales. And it's good. Just gonna state that right off the bat. It follows a news writer who is kind of terrible at his job and pretty much an arse, and he starts looking into this organisation that helps the homeless, whilst there's a serial killer going around killing the homeless. There's a lot to love about this episode, but I'm a big fan of acronyms, and I clocked the plot twist after hearing what the organisation's called. If you don't want this spoiled for you, do not think too much into that, or else it'll completely ruin the ending like it did for me. It's still good though, even if I did accidentally ruin it for myself, so 7 out of 10. Split Second is our 11th episode of this season, and it's so damn fun. It follows a guy who owns a lumberyard marrying a bartender lady, and they are just the most toxic couple I've ever seen. Anyone who even looks at her, he immediately tries to essentially murder. And a brand new lad's just come into the lumberyard who is quite attractive, and now his new wife wants to shag the new guy. It's just so over the top in possibly the best way. This poor lad just gets tormented by both the woman he's not interested in and his boss who now wants to kill him. The ending is so satisfying in the best possible way, though. It's just a really fun episode. Is it perfect? Hell no, it's a little bit too long in all honesty, but do you know what? It's fun. I really enjoy it. It's an 8 out of 10. It's great. Our 12th story is Deadline, which follows a newspaper journalist once again, who has literally ruined his career because of how much of an alcoholic he is, and now he wants to get his old job back. He needs to come up with something good within the next 24 hours, most likely a murder of some kind, and no matter what, he just can't get out of his rut. He ends up meeting this woman and they spend the night together, and yeah, she ends up getting murdered by her husband, which gives him the story he needs. And if that's where the story ended, I'd really like this one. It's fun, it's poetic, but then the final 5 minutes happens. I'm not going to spoil it, like I try to avoid doing as much as possible, but it really does ruin pretty much the whole episode for me. It just starts coming across as really mean for no reason out of nowhere, so it's a 4 out of 10. It's just a bit too mean for me personally. Spoiled is technically our last episode of the season, and I'll explain why when I get to the actual last episode. It follows a housewife who is obsessed with soap operas, to the point she wants to make her life into one. She has a husband who keeps doing all these weird science experiments in the basement, and because of this, and really loving soap operas, she ends up shagging the TV repairman. It's really dumb in a kind of fun way throughout the entire episode, where you just see these two absolute morons sneaking around while this super genius is in the basement, and every single time they're about to get caught and you're about to cheer, he somehow misses seeing them together. It's basically like a cat and mouse game where you're actually for once rooting for the cat. It's just fun, it's dumb, it's cheesy, but do you know what? I like it, so 7 out of 10, it's just fun. Our actual final episode of the season is Yellow. Now, this originally was not part of Tales From The Crypt. It was originally created for a spin-off series called Two-Fisted Tales, which also features 2 more stories that appear in the next season. Now, this episode is perfect. I'm just going to state it right off the bat. This is one of the most critically praised episodes of the show, and there's a reason for it. It's very real. It follows a guy during World War I who does not want to be part of the fighting or anything. He wants to run away, which, don't blame him, especially during World War I, where people were literally used as cannon fodder. And his dad is the general. So he has to stay, but he's terrified. He's yellow. That's where the term comes from. And it's such a tragic episode. I nearly cried when I first watched it because, sadly, stories like this genuinely did happen during World War I. And it's executed perfectly, so 10 out of 10, it's amazing. And that is season 3. What a season. Honestly, if it wasn't for that one kind of bad episode at the start, this would be my favourite episode of the show. Yes, there's a dud towards the end, but do you know what? It's just not personally for me. I don't think it's a bad episode by any means, and I can see why some people would like it. It's just not my cup of tea because of the ending. This season, though, goddamn, 2 of my favourite episodes of the entire show, with Yellow and, once again, absolutely breaks my heart, and The Reluctant Vampire, which is just so cheesy. Season 3 also did very well from what we can understand when it comes to ratings. Once again, we don't actually have a full explanation of what the ratings were, but they were good enough to apparently get seasons 4 and 5 renewed. And if you think that's a difficult feat for a show to get renewed for 2 seasons nowadays, it was even worse back in the 1990s. So, yeah, this show did really well, and this season is just as good as season 2. Like I said, if it just wasn't for that first episode, this would be perfection for me. It's still great, really do check it out, and if I'm being 100% honest, it's the last time that Tales from the Crypt is as good as this. There are a lot of good episodes to come for the rest of this video, but when it comes to complete seasons, as you'll see very shortly, this is when they started to run out of ideas. So, let's not waste any time and get to the start of Season 4 of Tales from the Crypt. It's time for Season 4 of Tales from the Crypt, or as I like to call it, the very, very slow beginning of the end. It's just not as good as the previous 3. I'm just going to state that right off the bat before I go into the actual episodes. There's nothing inherently wrong about Season 4, but you can tell they're starting to run out of good comics to adapt. Very, very long season, because it's just not that great. I won't waste any more of your time. Let's get straight into Season 4 of Tales from the Crypt, and you'll start to see what I mean about running very low on ideas. Our first episode of this season is honestly a pretty damn good start. None But the Lonely Heart stars Treat Williams, who, if you've seen Deep Rising and love it as much as I do, will automatically make you happy. He basically just marries all these old women as the ultimate gold digger and waits for them to die, or murders them, whichever one comes quicker. It's just a very fun episode in a really messed up kind of way. We see him develop these relationships and then just completely destroy them just for money. Let's be honest here, it's just for money. And by the end, the comeuppance is so satisfying. Like I stated all the way back in Season 1, a lot of Tales from the Crypt stories are about horrible people getting what's coming to them, and this episode, it knows what you want to see, and it does it so damn well. So, solid 8 out of 10. It's just a solid start for a not so great season. Episode 2's This'll Kill You stars Dylan McDermott, so once again we're just pulling out absolutely brilliant actors, and he discovers that he's been injected by this kind of deadly virus by his friends at the job. It's just kind of mean at times, I'm going to be honest. There's still a lot to like, there's some really good character moments, and Dylan McDermott's acting in this episode is almost too good for a Tales from the Crypt episode, if I'm being honest. It's very real, it's very raw, it does a perfect job at showing someone in this kind of situation. The twist ending also isn't that bad in all honesty. It could have been a lot worse, and the version I thought it'd end up with was a lot worse, so it's good. It's not great by any means. It's a bit too mean-spirited while still trying to be a comedy, but it's still solid. It's still a 7 out of 10. Episode 3 on a Dead Man's Chest is our first dud of the season, but not as bad as the previous ones did. It basically follows these group of rockers, and one of them starts dating a stand-in for Yoko Ono, which, if you know anything about the Beatles tale, you kind of know what to expect. Pushing for her partner to become solo, ditch the band, and trying to be the centre of attention. But with this one, it follows the other member of the band just straight up wanting to kill her and becoming obsessed with her in a very weird way. There's also a tattoo that plays into it, but even after watching it multiple times, I don't fully get what it's trying to say. I understand it's about his obsession with her, but is he in love with her? Is he just wanting to kill her? Is it his guilt manifesting? I'm honestly not too sure. It's just a bit messy, and I think it would have actually benefited from a longer runtime, so 6 out of 10. It's not bad, there's just more that needs to be covered. Episode 4 Seance is a weird episode. I know I've been saying that a lot so far throughout this video, but this one's definitely weird. It follows a pair of con artists who basically just swindle people, and they accidentally end up killing one of the people they're trying to swindle, so they need to kind of trick his wife in order to get the money that they wanted to steal from him. And she's very spiritual. She's a very spiritual character, and she wants to talk to her late husband by doing a seance, to which these two have to agree to be part of. It's very Tales from the Crypt. If any other show did this kind of episode, I'd say it's bad or dumb. But with Tales, it just kind of fits. It's silly in a fun way. The comeuppance that the two assholes get is great, so no complaint from me then. It's just solid. There's nothing really special about it. It's a 7 out of 10. It's good. Beauty Rest is the 5th episode of the season, and it's when the twist endings, in my opinion, really start to take a turn from fun but relatively believable to just kind of stupid. Very M. Night Shyamalan kind of endings from the 2000s. Beauty Rest follows a model who's apparently aging, but she still looks like she's in her 20s to 30s to me. The 90s were a very different place, and she keeps losing to her younger roommate. She ends up getting jealous of this roommate after she wins a competition they both entered for, and accidentally kills her. It's a fun little Tales from the Crypt stuff. Really enjoyed it up until that point. And then there's the ending. I won't spoil it again, but it's just so dumb it's unbelievable. I just don't get how the amount of people auditioned for this thing knowing what the end was going to be and didn't seem to mind. It makes no sense to me, but the rest of the episode up until then was really damn fun, so I'll give it a 7. I'm feeling generous. Episode 6, What's Cooking, is essentially the Texas Chainsaw Massacre but for middle class people, and it's really, really fun at that. It follows this married couple who have a failing restaurant, and they end up hiring this guy as a new janitor, who ends up murdering and cooking people, and creating apparently the best steaks ever made, even by the sheriff says that. And it's just dumb. It's so damn fun. This episode on IMDb, along with Yellow, are the 2 highest rated episodes, and I can see why for completely different reasons. This one is Tales from the Crypt comedy, dialed up to 11, and it's so damn fun. My literal only problem with this episode is I want it to be longer. The 25-minute format seems to rush the ending very quickly. It needed another 5 to 10 minutes, and I would have adored this episode. Even so, it is amazing. Check it out. It's a 9 out of 10. And to episode 7, The New Arrival. Now, this episode follows David Warner, once again, another brilliant actor that they've somehow got into this season, and yeah, it's just decent. There's honestly not much to say about it. It's good. It follows him trying to get higher ratings for his radio show, and bumping into Zelda Rubinstein from Poltergeist. Yeah, it's solid. I also just want to take this time, because there's not much else to say about this episode, I forgot to mention who starred in the previous one. Christopher Damn Reeves and Meatloaf. Thus my Meatloaf joke. I hope you all appreciated that one. But yeah, episode 7, it's good. It's bog standard by this point. You can see the twist coming from a mile away. It's a 7 out of 10. It's still fun. Episode 8, Showdown, is another episode very similar to Yellow, as it was originally part of a Two-Fisted Tales spin-off that was cancelled. And this episode starts to give us hints as to why that spin-off only got 3 episodes before it was cancelled and merged into Tales from the Crypt. I just don't understand what's going on in this episode. It follows a Texas Ranger getting murdered by this gunslinger, and he starts to see all the ghosts of his past just haunting him. It's a really cool concept that I'd really enjoy, but it's presented in a very confusing way. It's almost like the episode doesn't think that we realise that these guys are ghosts for most of it. So the moment you clock that, which is very easy to do because it's telegraphed straight to your face, there's just no real suspense in the episode. There's nothing building up. You're just kind of waiting for him to find out that it's all his comeuppance. It's just very forgettable, in all honesty, so I have to give it a 4 out of 10, the first dud of the season. Episode 9, King of the Road, our first and, hint hint, only original script throughout the entire 7-season run of Tales from the Crypt. And there's a reason. It's just not very good. This episode is one of the most hated online, and I can completely get why. But I will state it does verge on so bad it's good at many moments, to the point I actually really ended up just enjoying this episode. It's terrible, do not get me wrong. Brad Pitt is in this, and he does his best with what he is given, but he is not given much. It's very cringy, it's all about drag racing and this guy who was originally called Iceman. It's so cringe. I can't help but love it. It's awful. It's really bad, but I also love it. So, I guess 5 out of 10, it's mixed. Episode 10, Maniac at Large, is finally getting back to what makes Tales from the Crypt fun. It follows this librarian who is absolutely terrified of a possible serial killer that's loose in the area. And she's most likely going to be the next victim, or at least that's what she believes. It just basically focuses on everyone else trying to calm her, and her just constantly gaslighting herself that she's next. The twist is predictable, I will say. Just from that description, you've probably already worked out what it is. But it's fun. It feels like it's returning to the fun that the past few episodes have just been missing. So, it's an 8 out of 10. It's really fun. It's just great. Episode 11, Split Personality, is another episode that is really good until the twist ending. This episode follows a kind of swindler, kind of scam artist, and he ends up getting stuck outside of this really weird mansion and finds that the two occupants are both twin sisters, who are really into other twins. So he lies and scams and pretends that he is a twin and his brother's just off doing business, and he keeps swapping between the two brothers that are actually both himself in order to trick the women. But they get what's coming to them, let's be honest. It always happens in Tales. This guy is a horrible little scam artist, and of course he runs into serial killer sisters. You know exactly what to expect. It's good, it's fun, but kind of bog standard by this point. Still, it's a 7. Our 12th episode of this season is Strung Along, which is once again about puppeteers, because why have one episode about puppeteers in your TV show when you can have 2? And this one follows about a retired puppeteer who wants to get back into the industry after his brand new wife really wants him to. And of course, the wife's a gold digger, and the new puppeteer that's brought on board, the guy thinks that they both want to sleep together because she's a gold digger. Once again, we've seen this episode so many times before, and usually that would massively put me off an episode if I'm being honest. But with this one, the cast are just so damn fun. Zach Gilligan, who most people know from Gremlins, is in this one, and he is just so fun. Every time he's on screen, I'm having an absolute ball. The storyline itself is a bit generic, but because of the acting and the cast's chemistry, it really elevates it. So, 8 out of 10. It's just great. Our second to last episode this season is Werewolf Concerto, which is very much like an old Agatha Christie or Poirot tale. It follows a group of people at a hotel, and there happens to be a werewolf nearby who's killing off the guests. Our main Poirot stand-in has to investigate to figure out what's happening. There's also a love interest like every single one of these stories, and the best part about this episode, in 100% honesty, is that the detective is James Bond. It's Timothy Dalton, the best James Bond. Fight me in the comments, you absolute wrong people. He is the best one. My fiancé is currently staring at me like I just shot the family dog, but yeah, he's the best one. The rest of this episode is fine. You can see the twist coming once again, which is something I'm saying a lot this season, but it's still fun, so I'd say 7 out of 10. It's still good. And last, but in all honesty, phones probably least, we have Curiosity Killed, which is just mean. It's just 25 minutes of an old couple being horrible to each other, to the point you don't like either of them, and you start wondering, why the hell am I watching this episode? They go on a camping trip with some of their other elderly friends, and they find the Fountain of Youth, essentially. But the whole thing is just so that the horrible husband can up the horrible wife, and ends up with the horrible wife upping the horrible husband. I don't care about any of these people. I want them all to suffer. And by the end of the episode, spoiler alert, because I am going to spoil this one for you because you shouldn't watch it, they both end up dead. It's just mean. I don't like it at all. It's very boring. Just watching people argue for 25 minutes. If I wanted to do that, I'd just stick on something like The Only Way is Essex. 4 out of 10, it's just not great. And that was season 4 of Tales from the Crypt. Its highs nowhere near as high as the previous season, but I'll also admit its lows not as low as that first story of the previous season. Honestly, this season just feels fine. It is a completely acceptable season, but you can feel it's running out of ideas. There are so many different parts of the previous 3 that are just enjoyable. Even the episodes that are kinda dodgy, there's a lot to enjoy about them. These ones, not so much. A lot of it just feels more bog standard, like they were kind of phoning it in for this season. They ran out of ideas, so let's just do okay ones. A lot of these ended up with 7 out of 10s, which I really don't like giving, but none of them hit anywhere near a 10. We have one 9 out of 10 episode for me. That says a lot, in my opinion, when the previous ones had at least 1 out of 10. This one, not so much. It's a shame. I really do like a lot of aspects of this. There's just something missing throughout season 4, and I think a lot of it does come down to the kind of ideas they have. Many of these have been there, done that kind of concepts, whilst even if they did have a few repetitive moments, the first 3 seasons didn't feel like I was just watching the same concept over and over again. This one very much felt like it. It's not bad by any means, but there's a reason why I call this season the beginning of the end for the show, and you'll really start to see what I mean with the next season, because, oh boy, season 5, let's just get straight into this mess. Time for season 5 of Tales from the Crypt, and this is when my spirit really begins to die whilst making this video. As you'll see very shortly, the first 6 episodes of this season I actually kind of like as a collective apart from one of them, and then everything just goes downhill for the rest of it. As I already mentioned previously, this season was renewed along with season 4, and there's good reason for that after season 3. I just wish what we ended up with here ends up a lot better than it actually was. So let's get straight into season 5, as you'll slowly start to hear the last little remnants of my spirit die throughout this video. Episode 1, Death of a Salesman, is by far the best episode of this season. It's just so damn fun. It feels very much like the first 3 seasons of the show, and stars Ed Bengley Jr., who, once again, brilliant actor, and of course he's brilliant in this. He basically is a scam artist pretending to be a salesman and cheats people out of a ton of money when he runs into this very, very weird family who are kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but without the eating people. It's just a really fun episode. There's a lot of fun twists, a lot of fun turns. I did not see the ending coming, which I will state now is one of the last times I will say that throughout this video for its twists. This one's just really good. Like I said, it reminds me so much of the golden age of Tales that I can't help but love it. It's a solid 9 out of 10. Don't expect to hear that very often anymore. Episode 2, As Ye Sow, and we have another cheating spouse episode. This has to be literally like the 10th, I think, episode of this exact genre by this point, and this one's not that great, until, surprisingly, the ending twist. Apart from that, this episode is very, very normal. It follows a guy who thinks his wife's cheating on him because she's much younger than him, and he hires a detective to chase her down. The detective finds no information on her cheating except her going to a church at a certain point, where the priest is kind of a hottie. So he ends up deciding that she must be having an affair with the priest and has some hallucinations of it happening, and by the end, it's not true, she's not having an affair. I won't spoil the full ending because it's actually a really good twist that I enjoyed a lot and got a good laugh out of me. But apart from that, it's pretty bog standard from what we've seen before. 6 out of 10. Episode 3, Forever Ambergris, is another step up in quality for this season, and very sadly, I will just say now, is the last episode I'm going to give a 9 out of 10 to. This episode is so damn good. It feels very similar to Yellow in a lot of aspects, which, as you heard from my season 3 reviews, is one of my favourites of the entire show. It follows a group of photographers, one who's kind of washed up and one that's up and coming, as they go and investigate the same war. However, the old photographer really hates the new one because he sees him as someone who stole all his jobs. So he sets him up to get infected by a new kind of chemical warfare weapon, and it ends up killing him. Throughout the episode, we see that the photographer, the new one, has a very, very pretty wife, and the new guy wants to sleep with her. So that's what he intends to do. I won't spoil anymore because the ending is amazing. So, like I said, 9 out of 10. I wish there was more 9s. Episode 4 is our first dud of the season and is by far not the last one. Food for Thought is interesting in the way that it just doesn't work. I mean, it stars Ernie Hudson as this very, very mean psychic who really enjoys cooking for some reason. It's really not overly relevant to the plot by the end. He has an assistant who he loves, and she can also read minds, and he realises that she's hiding stuff from him by not letting him read her mind, and she may or may not be having an affair with a fire eater. It's standard. We've seen this kind of story so many times, but they just shove sidekicks into it. The main problem is Ernie Hudson's character is so detestable. He's abusive to his wife, he's abusive to everyone around him, and it's just kind of horrible to watch. It's 25 minutes of this guy just being horrific to everyone. And I'll say his comeuppance at the end really isn't worth it, so it's kind of bad. 3 out of 10, sadly. Continuing this season's flip-flop when it comes to quality, we have episode 5, People Who Live in Brass Hearses, starring the incredible duo that I wish we saw more of, is Bill Paxton and Brad Dourif, aka the guy who gets killed by aliens, predators and terminators, and Chucky, the killer doll. It's just a really good combo. Both these actors bounce off each other so perfectly throughout the episode. The twist is also surprisingly fun, and sadly, I will state now, that is the last time you'll actually hear me state that, even for some of the twists that aren't that bad later on. It's just a solid episode. Once again, like the first episode of this season, it harkens back to the golden age of the first 3 seasons, and starts at a certain point feeling like a last breath of its franchise. It's still very enjoyable though, I still really like it a lot. It's a solid 8 out of 10, it's great. Episode 6, thankfully, is another highlight of this season, though I will state this is the last time you'll see a number starting with 8 for my ranking for quite a while. It follows a man who murders his wife after finding out she's having an affair. I know, we've had this story so many times, and 3 times from this season alone, but this one actually does something new with it. This time we have the guy who's getting followed by a detective, and the detective knows he murdered his wife. It's a really fun back and forth, very Agatha Christie styled. In a weird way, kind of like Murder on the Orient Express, except no murder actually happens on the train itself. It's just solid, it's really fun. The back and forth between the detective and the husband really good, and the twist ending, despite being quite predictable, is relatively fun. So yeah, last solid one for us. Don't expect me to sound so happy whilst I'm covering the next 7 stories. 8 out of 10. Episode 5 is House of Horror, and this is the first real case that this show started to go downhill. So it focuses on a bunch of fraternity brothers and free pledges who want to get in, where the main fraternity bro is just sadistic as hell, but everyone seems to allow it for some reason. Throughout the episode, we meet a bunch of sorority sisters, one of which seems very interested in our main boy, and that goes nowhere. Just gonna state it from now, there is literally no reason why she seems fixated on this particular lad. It goes literally nowhere, it's never really acknowledged again after the first few scenes, and the whole haunted house thing is terrible. It keeps flip-flopping on if it is haunted or if it's not, and every excuse just seems to be more desperate than the last. There is a lot to like about this episode, there is some funny moments, but overall it's just a bit of a mess. So 5 out of 10, it's just mixed. Episode 8, Well Cooked Ham, stars Billy Zane as a really, really bad magician. This episode suffers from what the previous one did, of every single 10 seconds at the end, there's a twist, to the point where it just becomes difficult to follow, and by the time you finally figure out what's going on, you just don't care anymore. This episode is once again just mean. Billy Zane is just horrible to all his assistants. He then murders another magician who was actually the previous magician he'd already murdered, but apparently not gained anything from. The ending is sort of satisfying when it comes to seeing Billy Zane's character get what's coming to him, but apart from that, it's just bad. It's just not fun to watch. It's confusing, and by the time you figure it out, it's just not good. It's a 3 out of 10. This is what the rest of the show is basically like, just a heads up. Greek Course is yet another episode of this show which is ruined by its twist ending. Up until then, it's really good. There's a lot of exploration when it comes to stuff like Egypt, specifically ancient Egypt, the kind of relationship between students and their tutors, as well as the kind of douchebag, I'm a very self-centered jock characters that are very standard in 1990s shows and films. It does a really good job at building up the 3 main characters. You kind of want to see what's going on with every single one of them, and I will state by the end of it, they're all pretty well realised. The main issue is the twist ending, which isn't too much of a twist, but what it does to the characters of all of them. All 3 of the characters by the final 5 minutes do not feel anything like the characters we've gotten to know throughout the rest of the episode. It just gets a bit messy, but it's still very fun, and for this season, it's a bit more of a step up than the previous one, so I'd say it's a 7 out of 10. It's still good. Episode 10, Came the Dawn, is now back to what I was expecting from this season. It's just confusing. It follows a character called Norma, hint hint if you've ever watched Psycho, played by Brooke Shields, as she catches a ride with this guy who has a very bad relationship with his wife. As I said, if you've seen Psycho, you know what the twist is to an extent. The rest of it just isn't that fun. It's not bad by any means. There's some really, really good character moments between the main 2 characters. You do actually see some real depth to them. It's just a shame that once again, by the final few minutes, all that's essentially thrown out the window. It's just not that special overall, so I'd say another 5 out of 10. It's just nah. Episode 11, and spoiler alert, Oil's Well That Ends Well is a good episode until the final couple of minutes. Now this one focuses on let's just say scam artists that just end up murdering their friend and betraying him. There's some good moments that seems to be focusing on the darker aspects of the criminal underworld, the kind of backstabbing thing, no one's really your friend. The main issue with this episode is that Priscilla Presley is playing the main female character, and everyone keeps calling her old, and I'm just looking at it going, she's not that old, guys. She looks completely fine. It's really weird how they keep calling her old when she's only like 40 in this episode. It's very dated, very 90s, and the twist ending is. It's really, really bad and just comes out of absolutely nowhere. So, another 5 out of 10, another mixed one, again. Episode 12, Halfway Horrible, is one of the most hated episodes of Tales from the Crypt. And to an extent, I can understand why. This episode does just feel like a mishmash of ideas from previous episodes blended together. But as a massive, massive fan of Pet Sematary 2, which is good, please fight me in the comments, because you are wrong if you dislike that absolute meth head of a film. It stars Clancy Brown. It literally has Mr. Krabs in it. I cannot bring myself to dislike this episode. Is it relatively boring at times? I can sort of see that. Is the plot twist completely predictable? Yes. But does it have Clancy Brown effing and blinding? Yes, it does. And you know what? Hearing Mr. Krabs go on a massive rant about how he's the best person in the room will always be satisfying to me. Call me basic if you want to, but I think this season needs all the help it can get. 6 out of 10, it's decent. Our last episode this season, with only 13 episodes, is Till Death Do We Part. Now, this episode is bad. It's really, really bad. And once again, it comes completely down to the ending. The rest of the episode is kind of interesting. It follows a crime boss who's actually a woman, which is always exciting to see, and she has her young, like, about 20-year-old bloke that she's with, and he falls in love with a stripper. It's bog standard mob crime horror stuff that you'd be expecting, until the ending, where he finally does choose to leave the life behind of crime to go with the woman he actually loves. It's very sweet, it's very adorable, and then the twist is, and I'm just going to spoil it for you, it was all in his head and he shoots her, and he just stays with the horrible woman. Yeah, the bad people in this story just win, and that does not feel like Tales from the Crypt from me. It's bad. And that's season 5. Such a drop in quality. The season 4, despite its many, many issues, still felt decent enough. There's a lot of stories to like in season 4, even if they're not exactly original anymore. Season 5, though, just seems to be clutching at straws. It's grabbing the last few good stories, shoving them all at the beginning of this season, and then just regurgitating stuff with new twist endings that are worse than any of the twist endings I've seen. I honestly, whilst watching this season, felt like I should apologise to M. Night Shyamalan's The Village for calling that the worst plot twist in film history. Pretty much every single twist this season, apart from maybe 5 or 6, are atrocious. They're just so bad that they ruined the entire episode. It's really disappointing to see, and sadly, as you'll see very shortly, season 6 kind of carries this on. There are some highlights, like I said. Death of a Salesman is such a good story. I would highly recommend people check it out. It feels so much like a return to form for the series. When I was actually watching the first few episodes, I was really confused as to why people hated this season as much as they do. Then we get over the 6 episode mark, and I just completely understand why. There is nothing special here, there's nothing original. It just feels like they are completely out of ideas, but it still keeps doing well enough in the ratings that they keep renewing it. So they renewed it for a 6th season, despite this being the quality of the 5th. Even so, let's get on to season 6, because, whoa boy, do I have some opinions about this next season. Season 6, only one more season to go, and after watching this one, honestly, thank God. This season is just all the issues that I had with season 5, dialed up to 11. The episodes are even more boring and kind of copy-pasted from previous ones with even worse twists. Honestly, apart from 2 outliers, the rest of the season I'm not really a fan of. It goes from good to the worst episode in the show's history. And I'm not even being dramatic when I say that. It's the lowest one rated on IMDb. And like with a few others, I was originally thinking maybe people are just being mean, but no, let me get to them. So let's go straight into season 6 of Tales from the Crypt. Episode 1, Let the Punishment Fit the Crime, is one of the few outliers of season 6. It stars Catherine O'Hara as a really horrible lawyer who was in some kind of car incident, possibly to do with her license plate or a crash, depending on what hints you're listening to at the time, and she's in this really odd town where, honestly, everything just seems very corrupt. People are terrified of the judges. They get lashes. They get put in stocks like it's the goddamn 1500s. And by the end of the episode, you finally clock on why. It's a really fun story, something I wasn't expecting for the first episode of this season, but I really enjoyed it. It's solid, it's fun, it's funny. Solid 8 out of 10. It's just a great story to start off with. Episode 2, Only Skin Deep, also isn't that bad. It focuses on this really horrible character who was in many abusive relationships where, surprise, he was the abuser. And he meets this girl at a Halloween party and they, let's just say, get it on. It's quite an interesting look at the kind of person this man is. The way that he views himself compared to how everyone else views him as this monster. He doesn't think of himself as it, and I like that as an angle. We really see the psychology of people like this, and honestly it just kind of makes me hate him even more. There's some quite good twists towards the end, until, once again, it kind of falls apart, as a lot of these seasons do. It's just forgettable by the end of it, but those first 20 minutes when it's a character study, really solid. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Episode 3, Whirlpool, and well boy, here we go. This is when the show completely screws up. Whirlpool focuses on an artist who works for Tales from the Crypt. I'm not even going to do the check notes joke this time, because this episode don't deserve it. She's stuck in a time loop, which normally I love as a concept. I love me a time loop story. But this one is so convoluted. Something keeps going wrong every single time she reaches the end of a day and she ends up getting killed. But the way it happens is so forced. One moment her boss is kind of an ass, the next moment he pulls a gun out on her and shoots her. She's kind of rude to her boss, then she just pulls out a gun and shoots him. And then the cops just open fire with no real evidence. It's just so dumb. It's so bad. Sometimes it is so bad it's funny, I will admit. But otherwise, this episode is as much of a disaster as everyone else says. It's a 2 out of 10. It's awful. Episode 4, Operation Friendship, seems like an episode that on the surface I would also hate. A lot of people despise this episode almost as much as Whirlpool, but for me, I honestly kind of like it. It follows a man who is very self-conscious and awkward, who still has an imaginary friend in his 20s. But his imaginary friend is the most obnoxious 1950s douchebag you've ever seen. Imagine the characters from Grease but dialed up to 30. That is this character, and honestly, I do find it kind of funny how over the top it gets. The story itself is exactly what you're expecting, though. Nerdy guy meets a girl, he falls for her, the imaginary friend gets jealous, kills her. It's exactly what you'd expect. There's nothing that special, but I just really enjoyed it. It's just a fun 20-25 minutes. So, yeah, I'd say check it out, but I wouldn't rush to it. It's a 7 out of 10. It's good. Episode 5, Revenge is for Nuts, is just what we've seen before. It is literally a re-adaptation of Blind Alleys all the way from the 1972 film, but meaner, which is honestly saying a lot. Now, whilst that original version I felt dragged on at times, it was still solid and the ending was ridiculously satisfying. But this one, I'm not too sure how I feel still. This time the head caretaker is a bit, I'll be honest, grapey, if you know what that means. And the new main character who replaces the other one is now like a young 20, 30 something, and her entire character is that she's blind but hot. Also, with the original, I felt that a lot of the blind acting was sincere. This one felt very much played for laughs, which isn't great. The ending's also exactly the same, which is still satisfying, but otherwise, it's just kind of forgettable. 5 out of 10. Episode 6 for Bribe is one of the most forgettable episodes of the entire show. I'll be honest, before recording this segment, I had to remind myself what even happened in this episode because it's just so unmemorable. It follows a fire marshal who is creepily obsessed with his daughter, and in the kind of possible emotionally incest levels of a daddy-daughter relationship, and it's just bad. She gets in with a bad crowd, as you'd expect. He doesn't like it. He bribes the goddamn mafia guy, I think, possibly just drug dealer, to no longer hang out with his daughter. She still does it anyway, and then he bribes the guy to burn down the place she's partying at. He doesn't know she's partying, granted, but it's just so boring. There is nothing special about this story. 4 out of 10. Episode 7 is another highly hated episode of the show, with the pit being probably the most Marmite episode of the entire 7-season run, and weirdly enough, I'm more in the like it camp. Is it great? No, it's definitely not. And it focuses on these two professional fighters and both their professionally fighting wives who recently retired. Now, the wives, because of their retirement, never really got to have the final fight with each other that they wanted, so they use their husbands as proxies to beat the other one in a metaphorical sense. It's not horror, I'll state that right off the bat. This is the least horror I think the show has ever been. There's been moments which feel like the show's kind of forgotten about its horror roots, but this one was definitely the defining part of that. I still really like it though, mostly for the ending. The bad characters get their comeuppance in a ridiculously satisfying way. So, 7 out of 10. Maybe by this point I've just gone mental. Episode 8, The Assassin, is somehow great. I really don't know why they put it halfway through the season, but you know what? I'm happy it's here, because it gave me the inspiration to keep going, in all honesty. It focuses on a recently married couple, where the housewife, Janet, is left on her own, and a trio of assassins try to come and kill her, because her husband, shocker, was actually part of their organisation in the past. It's a really fun concept that I really do enjoy, and the ending twist, I'm just going to spoil it for you. Suddenly, the main housewife was trans. Well, they transitioned from male to female to escape being noticed. And the storyline being suddenly trans is so funny to me as a trans woman that I can't help but love it. I love how committed this episode is. So, 8 out of 10. It's just really fun. Episode 9, Stared in Horror, is another surprisingly fun episode just shoved into the middle of this season. This one focuses on a fugitive who's on the run for murdering a bunch of old people, where he ends up in the home of an old lady. There's a lot of tension on if he's gonna murder her, if he's not, and it also has Ali Ermey, who will always make me happy to see. The fun twist of this one is actually done very early on in the episode, which I appreciate. It doesn't make it feel like it's a sudden rug pull like so many other twists throughout this show do, and instead, it's all about the aftermath of the twist. The entire first half and second half honestly almost feel like a two-part story. They're that different in tone and with their comedic aspects. It's just a solid story. It's not amazing by any means, the ending definitely feels very sudden, but it's still a 7 out of 10 nonetheless. It's good. Episode 10, In the Groove, it's awful. I'm just gonna be straight up honest. I don't have much more to say. It's about 20 minutes of a pair of siblings who own a radio station together being nasty to each other, whilst at the same time, the guy is doing a radio program which is just corn. I'm just going to be straight up honest. It's audio calm. That is what 20 minutes of this episode is. It's atrocious. I feel dirty for just watching it. And if I could scrub it from my mind, I would. This is the worst episode of the entire show by a mile. And that's saying a lot with how many episodes I don't like. Do not watch this one. Completely skip it. It's my 1 out of 10 for this video. Episode 11, Surprise Party, and this one, honestly, it's just quite forgettable. It focuses on this lad who probably killed his dad, and he goes to the house that his dad owns, and there's people partying. That's pretty much the be-all and end-all. There's obviously a twist ending, as the house itself is already burnt down, and you can probably figure out what it is from the fact that every character in this is wearing very 80s styled clothes, despite the fact that we're in a burnt down house in the 90s. It's just not that special, it's pretty damn boring, so I'm just going to move on to the next one. Sorry, it's a 4. Episode 12, Doctor of Horror. And this episode is definitely a step up from the previous one, but as you can probably tell so far this video, it's really not saying much when you step up from absolute shite. Doctor of Horror is an interesting concept with poor execution. I mean, for crying out loud, it has Hank Azaria in it, which, if you know anything to do with The Simpsons, he's basically about 50% of the goddamn cast. It focuses a lot on the spiritual aspects of life after death, stealing corpses in a morgue and stuff in order to figure out if there is a soul, and if a soul can be controlled. It's all cool in concept, it's just the episode itself really drags on, especially during the first half, but I'd still say it's worth checking out if you're interested in this sort of thing, so 6 out of 10, it's decent. Episode 13 comes for Dawn. Now this one's actually kinda good in a weird way. It has Michael Ironsides and Bruce Payne, so already it's gonna be good, and if you don't know who Bruce Payne is, just look up Bruce Payne, Dungeons and Dragons, you will not be disappointed. It's absolutely on so many drugs. And the two of them, along with another fellow war veteran, end up travelling really weirdly into Alaska and may or may not counter ghosts. It's very fun, it's very silly. I love the ending, it's so damn cheesy in all the best kind of ways that I love from this show. I will say overall, it's not perfect. There's some pacing issues, especially in the first half, where it's not really sure what it wants to be as an episode. It's still really good though, so I would check it out, and yeah, 7 out of 10. Then we have episode 14. Now, I'm not even going to bother trying to speak out its name because it's so overly complicated for no real reason. It's okay in aspects and failures in others. It follows a pair of characters, one of which is the president of a massive company, one of which makes all the art for the company. And she's having an affair and is greedy and narcissistic. Oh my god, we've seen this episode before so many times. It's starting to get annoying. The gimmick of this one is that she makes really grotesque artwork, and she ends up getting fired by her husband. It all goes a little bit nuts throughout the entire thing. There's some really good moments in this. I honestly kind of like the affair part of character. He's just very funny. But the rest of it is stuff we've literally seen countless times. 4 out of 10. It's another forgettable one. As an episode itself, You Murderer is nothing special. Once again, it's about cheating spouses, it's about betrayals, but the main gimmick of this episode is that, despite being dead for like 30 years by this point, Humphrey Bogart is the main character. Well, technically it's a guy who's got plastic surgery to look like Bogart, and there's some pretty impressive special effects, I will state, for the 1990s, with stuff like stock footage and just general face replacements on a different actor to make him look like Bogart. There's also a very good impressionist throughout the entire episode, and yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. I am against the use of stuff like AI to bring back dead actors. I'm against CGI to bring back dead actors. And despite this being very impressive for the time, it still leaves a kind of sour taste in my mouth. But I will give them credit for being able to do this in such a small budget, so 6 out of 10, the story's not that bad either. And that was season 6 of Tales from the Crypt, and wow, it's just disappointment after another, isn't it? So many episodes this season could have been something special. They just don't have any effort put into them. I mean, for crying out loud, In the Groove is by far the worst episode of this show, which says a lot in a show that has quite a few bad episodes. But that one, oh boy, if it wasn't for that episode, I don't think this season would be good anyway. But my lord, did we really need to make a corn episode? What did we gain from this? Like, really? The rest of the season just isn't that great either. There's only 2 proper highlights for me this season, and that's it. One of which is because it had such a ridiculous, suddenly trans twist, I couldn't help but love it. And the other one because it's literally a horrible character going through horrible things, which is why I started watching this show in the goddamn first place. There's just so many issues this season. It didn't seem to know what it wanted to be. They were well out of comics to adapt by this point, and from the looks of it, from what we can understand, ratings did not do well for this season, as season 7 still got renewed, but with a drastically reduced budget, to the point that the entire thing was made in the UK. But let's not waste any time and get into season 7. And finally, boils and ghouls, here we are, the final season of Tales from the Crypt, and by this point, despite me really enjoying this show, I can't help but say, thank God! Everything that is wrong with the previous 3 seasons in this season is amplified because of one massive problem. A lot of the writers and directors were the same ones who worked on the previous episodes. Now, I don't normally like to judge creators from past work not being the best, but then they changed the setting to the UK, where it's only UK actors, but still written by Americans. So, despite my hopes that this would feel a lot more like the 2 films, it just feels like American Tales from the Crypt, but even worse. So let's just get straight into it, because oh boy, this season, oh boy. Episode 1, Fatal Caper, focuses on a trio of siblings who are basically just battling over their dad's will. This episode also has a suddenly trans twist, but do you know what? As far as season 7 goes, it's actually quite fun. I really love the dynamic between the siblings, and even though the twist is something we saw literally 5 episodes ago, it's still kind of fun. There's not much else to say about this episode. It's good, but not great. So, 7 out of 10. Episode 2, Last Respects, is another adaptation of A Monkey's Paw, and once again, I'm a big fan of Monkey's Paw stories, so you know I'm at least going to enjoy it. It focuses on a trio of sisters to kind of counteract the previous episode's trio of brothers who get stuck with a monkey's paw. They all kind of try to backstab each other, but in subtle ways. It's one of the few episodes I think actually benefits from being set in Britain, as it does feel very British to the banter between the siblings. Overall though, it's just another Monkey's Paw episode, and I much prefer the one that's in the film, so it's good, it's another 7 out of 10, it's fun. Let's get on to the next one. Episode 3, A Slight Case of Murder, is the first massive dud of this season, and I think just calling it a dud is honestly being nice. The episode revolves around a mystery novelist and a massively fangirly neighbour, as well as the main girl's husband and the neighbour's son. It's just a bunch of characters that don't seem very likeable, all being unlikable to each other. There's some interesting moments, but then there's parts where like one of the characters is stabbed straight through the chest but doesn't seem bothered by it. Another character's shot but never seems to actually bleed out or anything. And the entire ending is so ridiculously convoluted that it genuinely took me until my second time watching it to even understand what it was wanting to say. It's just a mess, the whole thing. It's not good, and yeah, it's our first bad episode of the season. 3 out of 10. Episode 4, Escape, is honestly the worst episode for the show if In the Groove didn't exist. It's just so incredibly bad. So during this episode we follow... how do I put this? Because YouTube doesn't like a certain word. It follows a villain of World War II at a concentration camp in the UK. Now, already from that you'll be thinking, wait, what? And yeah, the main character who we're following is a villain of World War II. And the thing is as well, he's a lieutenant, so I can't even put it down to he was conscripted. No, this guy's high up in the not-so-nice party, and he keeps citing the Geneva Conventions. Now, if you know anything about history, the Geneva Convention as we know it today did not happen until 1949. This story takes place in 1944. It is so bad, it is atrocious. 2 out of 10. It's only not a 1 because I don't give 2 1s in a video. Episode 5, Horror in the Night. And this episode is what I wanted the rest of the British Tales from the Crypt season to be. Quintessentially British feeling. It follows this criminal who double-crosses his partner and hides out in a nearby hotel, which is very, very dilapidated. Or is it? And that's the fun thing about this episode. It's all kind of dream sequences mixed with reality. You don't know what to believe throughout this entire episode, if any of it's happening or if it's not. Sometimes it feels like a time loop, sometimes it feels like it's jumping into the future or in the past. It's really fun in the way it does it, and I actually have to give massive credits here to the director of the episode, Russell Macaulay, because I don't normally mention the directors of this one, but I think if anyone else directed this episode, it would have been a mess. So I did need to call him out for how good he did it. It's just really solid, so solid 8 out of 10. It is great. And after such a great episode, we then go back into the nah-ness of Season 7 with Cold War, which stars... Hang on a minute, that's
fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Basically, there are a couple of possible zombies who just like causing crimes. They have another friend of them who gets killed off very quickly, and then they bump into Colin Salmon, who most people know from Resident Evil, but saddos like me know from James Bond movies. It's completely fine, it's nothing special, so 5 out of 10, and one of those points is just for the actors, I'll be honest. Episode 7, The Kidnapper. Now, at time of recording, this is the lowest rated episode on IMDb, and is it as horrific as that moniker gives it? No, maybe, possibly not. So, this episode stars goddamn Steve Coogan, who, if you're British, you'll be wondering why the hell he's in this. He was big in the 90s as well, so I don't know. He ends up falling in love with this woman with a kid who is just not interested in him. So he just gaslights her and abuses her to kind of accept him. It's not very nice. And then he even arranges for her kid to be kidnapped, which he then regrets when she gets sad because, I know, right? Shocker. And yeah, then he tries to kidnap a kid for her. It's not good, it's bad, but it has Steve Coogan in it, and as a British person, it does make me happy whenever I see him, so 3 out of 10. Episode 8, Report from the Grave, is a very interesting episode until it just isn't. So it focuses on a pair of paranormal researchers who basically have a machine that can collect thoughts of the dead. It's an interesting concept that I really like, until he ends up turning the device on too high and his girlfriend dies. Then it just kind of becomes about a cat and mouse game between the main guy and a ghost in order to resurrect his girlfriend. It's just not that great. It's not bad by any means, do not get me wrong here. It's just relatively forgettable after the first half. Now, the first half is great, it just doesn't get the payoff that the episode seems to be pushing towards. So, I'd say a 5 out of 10. It's very mixed. Episode 9, Smoke Rings, is another disappointing one in all honesty. So this one follows a woman who hires Daniel Craig before he was James Bond, so it makes sense why he's in this. I'm still not over Steve Coogan over here. And he's able to hypnotise people with a device from this guy who used to be the CEO, I think. It's honestly, none of it matters because the twist ending just undoes the entire episode and the meaning of it. None of this really happens the way that the episode presents it. It's all complete made up, and it really does ruin the absolutely okay episode. So, 4 out of 10, just because the ending really does ruin a lot of other aspects of it. Episode 10, About Face, is honestly really good, and I don't know why it's this far into this season, and yeah, I just don't get it. About Face is essentially, and I'm not even joking here, Malignant, 25 years before Malignant was even a film. I don't know how that even really happened. I did check. There's no real connection. James Wan never watched this episode as far as I can tell. It's just a really fun coincidence, and you know what? This episode itself is really good. There's actually really good commentary for the first time in ages from this show about the kind of image that a lot of people higher up in places like the church try to present compared to how their actual life is. It's just really fun. I was not expecting this. It's really nice. 8 out of 10. Whip whip. Episode 11, Confession, is a really good episode until it's not. So this episode stars the absolute queen of the United Kingdom, Susie Izzard, who, if you don't know, was previously known as Eddie Izzard, and is kind of like one of the biggest actors/actresses when it comes to Britain, and especially when it comes to comedy. And yes, they're perfect in this role. It's just a shame about the rest of the episode, as essentially it follows their character possibly being set up for murders, and it is just so painfully obvious very early on that the detective who's interviewing them, they're actually, the multiple serial killer. It's just really annoying. I feel like they should have made his character more stoic. Instead, they make him completely antagonistic, and yeah, you can see the twist coming. It's a shame, because otherwise I think I'd really like this one, as it feels a lot like a VHS segment, but sadly, it's a 5 out of 10. Episode 12, Here Today, Gone Tomorrow, is essentially our final proper episode of Tales from the Crypt. And do we go out with a bang or a whimper? We go out with neither. It's completely fine. It follows this safecracker whose hearing has gone over the years, and essentially this guy who's hired him makes him into part animal. It's very Island of Dr. Moreau, which I do like as a concept. The issue with this episode is when it feels like it's really getting going, it ends. It needed an extra 5 to 10 minutes, or hell, even an entire second part. It feels like the episode is set up for something which just never happens, sadly. And it's a shame, because this is the last proper episode of Tales from the Crypt. As you'll see in just a moment, 6 out of 10, it's still decent. Yes, really. What you're seeing right now is not a joke. This is the final ever episode of Tales from the Crypt, known as The Third Pig, which is an animated adaptation of the Three Little Pigs story, nothing to do with Tales from the Crypt. I don't know why this happened. I have to give massive credit in a way that this is how you go out on the show. I accept, and I'm quite impressed by the amount of balls that took. But yeah, it's just an adaptation of the Three Little Pigs, where at the end the third pig goes to court for murder and everything's set up because everyone else in the town are apparently wolves. Sure, it's bad, I will state that right now. It's really, really, really bad. It's one of the worst episodes. But the animation's actually quite nice, and seeing the animation used for the kids show, but in a very R-rated setting, is pretty fun. So, I guess a 3 out of 10. God damn, what a disappointing ending. And that's it for Season 7. wow, what a disappointing end. As you probably guessed from now, from me constantly mentioning it, there was not a season 8 of Tales from the Crypt, and from what we can understand, the ratings for this season somehow plummeted even further. And when it comes to fan ratings of this season, they're not exactly great neither. This entire thing feels more like a desperate grab to still continue the show, which I do have to give kudos to the producers for, and of course to John Cassar for still being the Crypt Keeper after all this time. It's just a shame that this is how the show went out. I feel like if the show ended with season 4, people would still love the entire run of the show to an extent. But then they just kept milking it and milking it and milking it, and oh my lord, why is my brain suddenly going to The Walking Dead for some reason? Yeah, it's not great. It's a shame, it really is. There's a couple of highlights, like I said, throughout my little reviews, but yeah, I'm not normally happy when a show dies. As a Doctor Who fan, for instance, I hope that show never dies, no matter how bad it gets. But with this one, yeah, it was time to call it. There was just nothing further that could really be done, and that's a shame. But the franchise didn't end there. No, around about the time of season 6 and 7, we did get 2 feature-length movies. So, let's take a quick look at them, shall we? Starting in 1995, Tales from the Crypt got some feature-length adaptations based on movies that had absolutely nothing to do with Tales from the Crypt. It's odd. It's a weird decision, I'll be honest with you. I don't really understand why they didn't just adapt some of the other stories they weren't able to touch, or maybe they'd already done that with the dregs of what was left by the end of the show. But Demon Knight is the first one, followed very shortly on by Bordello of Blood, and then there was meant to be a third one that just never went into production. So instead, they just took the 2002 film Ritual and just slapped some Crypt Keeper segments on at the beginning and some blooper reels on at the end. Let's get into them. I don't want to waste too much time because I'm just ready to end this by now. Our first film, Demon Knight, is by far the best of the trilogy. Now, Demon Knight feels very much like just a feature-length Tales from the Crypt episode, despite its actually not being anything related to the comic books. It was written separately by a trio of writers and ended up being directed by Ernest Dickerson, who most people will know from the absolutely insane Bones from 2001. And this one's really fun. It follows a group of people who are basically trapped in this kind of desert-y hotel thing, and a man appears and a bunch of demons appear. It's really fun, and the best thing about this film, in my opinion, is Billy Zane. So, Billy Zane is playing the evil demon character, and they are just camping it up to the max. Every single scene with him in it is impeccable. It really makes up for his terrible, terrible performance in season 6. It's just so much fun as this movie. It has Jada Pinkett Smith playing a character who's not absolutely irritating and I don't want to kill him, so she's doing really good in this film. And yeah, it's just solid. The titular Demon Knight is great. The movie basically feels like what if Tales from the Crypt did Evil Dead, because it is gory as hell as this film, in the best possible way. They even kill off a kid, which I never expect in any media, so it's always really funny when it happens. Yeah, it's just solid. It's really fun. It's really cheesy. It's Tales from the Crypt the movie. Solid 8 out of 10. Can't really say anymore. Our second film, Bordello of Blood, is not very well liked by a lot of people, and I can kind of understand why. So this one focuses on the mythical character of Lilith, who, if you don't know, is essentially a demon. The film doesn't get into it, and I'm not really gonna either. And this one's kind of fun as well. It follows a group of people trying to figure out what's happened to some of their friends. Mostly it follows a private investigator who's really funny, I will be honest. He is just an absolute arse throughout the entire 90-minute runtime, and he is my spirit animal in 100% honesty. It's just alright. There's nothing too special about it. It doesn't feel enough like a sequel to the previous film, despite it trying very, very hard to be one. There's an item that's in the first film that appears in this one, but that's literally the only kind of overlay. The film also has a weird cold open that connects to the first one and brings Lilith into the world before the Crypt Keeper's prologue, which in all honesty to me just feels like absolute sacrilege. How dare we not start with the Crypt Keeper? Yeah, it's just decent. There's nothing more I can say. I'm not going to waste any more time, so 6 out of 10. There's worse films out there. Our third and final film is Ritual. Now, originally this was not a Tales from the Crypt film. It was a completely independent film, which is a remake of the 1943 film I Walked with a Zombie, which, if you don't know, that film is ridiculously important when it comes to people knowing what zombies were, especially voodoo zombies. And this film is a 2000s remake of it. You can probably already guess my opinion on this film. It's bad. It's just not good. I'd rather watch the 1943 one, and I find that film boring as shit in all honesty, so that says a lot about this one. Instead, I want to talk about the Crypt Keeper for this. They gave him dreadlocks and blackfaced him. What the actual hell? This is how the franchise's legacy went out. In 2006, they re-released this film with the Crypt Keeper to try and just salvage whatever the hell they could from it. And yeah, it put the final nail in the coffin for the franchise for me. It was done. There's nothing more that I can really say. It's just done. I don't know what else this film was trying to be. The actual film itself is bad. There's really bad acting. Some moments of it are literally just seeming like softcore corn. And yeah, bad, so bad. Why did they do this to my franchise? Why do they want to hurt me like this? I don't like it. Yeah, 3 out of 10. It's just, I can't believe this is how the franchise officially ended. And that's our little trilogy of films. Honestly, starting off so well with Demon Knight. It is exactly what I wanted from this trilogy. And then by the end of it, my excitement's gone again. It's exactly how I felt at the end of season 7. I'm done for a while. I don't want to watch any more Tales for quite a bit. It's a shame this is how the franchise ended, because honestly, Bordello of Blood, if it just had a couple more little moments, it probably would have been as good as Demon Knight, in my opinion. It just didn't seem to have the love and care that the first movie had. It was very much a 1 year later quick cash-in on, once again, a completely original script. I'm sad this is how the franchise ends, but let's talk about the franchise as a whole, shall we? Tales from the Crypt is still kinda special to me in a way. I had only discovered it about a year or two ago, and I've loved it ever since, even if it has some massive shortcomings. I mean, I bought the goddamn DVD box set within about a week of watching seasons 1 and 2. I don't do that for many shows anymore. I just knew I needed this on my shelf, because it is something special. There's just this feeling, especially during the early few seasons, of just love for the genre. Cheesiness maxed out to the absolute extreme, mixed with some very strong violence and quite a lot of nudity, especially for a 1990s program. I just find Tales special. I don't think we'll ever get another show like it. Other shows that have done something similar, like American Horror Stories, they just don't hit the right nail. They try and be too serious. Tales never really tried to do that. It knew exactly what it wanted to be, and it just did it. And I will always respect it for that. As you saw from my little rankings that I popped up, I definitely do think that after season 2, each season progressively went downhill, be it absolutely minorly like with season 3, all the way to the nearly 1 point average drop in quality from seasons 4 to 5. I still love it though, and even in the worst seasons, there's still at least one 8 out of 10 in my opinion. There's still one banger, and I don't know many other shows that could say that, in all honesty. I also just kind of want to thank Tales from the Crypt for existing in the first place, especially during the early 90s before Scream came out. horror was not in a good place. I mean, what? Between the end of the 80s and Scream, we basically had Candyman. That's basically it. We had Candyman. Even our main franchises died. We only really had Child's Play 2 when it came to them, and that was still relatively new. Hellraiser 3 was also okay. But yeah, I just feel that Tales from the Crypt has been forgotten about when it didn't deserve to be. And that's why I made this video, and I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I will see you when I see you, as you could probably tell from how long this video took to make. I don't have a schedule. I just work on in the background, and if I don't think it's good enough, I don't release it. That's why I didn't end up releasing my Disenchanted or Futurama videos. I just didn't think they were good enough, and I'll try again at some point next year, most likely. So, yeah, until next time, have a good one, boils and ghouls, and I'll see you later. Toodles!